Before you toss another veggie scrap, look twice. You might be throwing away tomorrow's harvest. Today we are uncovering 15 proven tricks to regrow store-bought vegetables so you can save money, reduce waste, and keep a kitchen garden thriving all year. The best part? You already have everything you need sitting on your counter: green onions and scallions. Green onions are the ultimate beginner's miracle plant, the regrow champion hiding in plain sight in your grocery bag. Your grandparents did not call them forever onions for nothing. Those pale white roots at the bottom that everyone cuts off and throws away are actually a living engine waiting to restart itself. Just place the root ends in a glass of water on a sunny windowsill and watch what happens next. Within 24 hours, bright green shoots begin rising like they have been waiting for their second chance. Within 3 to 5 days, you have fresh scallions tall enough to harvest again. Historically, families kept a jar of regrowing green onions right next to the kitchen sink. It was one of the simplest homegrown foods you could maintain year-round. They were prized not only because they were fast, but because they required no soil at all. Once you get them going, you can cut and regrow from the same roots multiple times. Their secret is simple. Green onions store nutrients at the base of the bulb, so even after they are cut, the plant still has enough energy to regenerate new leaves. It is nature's built-in backup plan. Today, with food prices rising and kitchen gardening making a comeback, green onions are the perfect gateway into the world of regrowing from scraps. If you want instant results and nearly guaranteed success, this is where you begin. Celery is the veggie that looks delicate but refuses to quit. Hidden in the base, the part most people slice off and toss, is a tight cluster of dormant growth points just waiting for light, warmth, and moisture. And when you give it those three things, celery wakes up with surprising force. All you need is the bottom 2 inches of the stalk. Place it in a shallow dish of water, cut side facing up, and set it in a bright window. Within a few days, you will notice tiny pale yellow leaves pushing upward from the center like a miniature bouquet. That is the heart of the plant reawakening. Over the next week, those leaves deepen to a rich green and new stalks slowly emerge around them. Our great-grandparents often regrew celery on windowsills before transferring it to garden soil, where it would continue producing full stalks throughout the season. In the garden, the regrown plant sends out crisp, flavorful ribs that taste sweeter and more aromatic than store-bought ones. Even indoors, you can keep it growing by refreshing the water or potting it in a small container. The reason celery regrows so well is simple biology. The central crown, the growing point, is intact even after harvesting. That crown contains all the instructions needed to rebuild the plant from the inside out. For gardeners who want something low effort but impressive, celery delivers big results from what looks like nothing more than kitchen leftovers. Romaine lettuce and other head lettuces. Romaine lettuce is a perfect example of how modern kitchens waste more food than they realize. That compact pale base at the bottom of every romaine heart isn't a scrap, it's the entire engine of the plant. When you place it in a shallow dish of water, the plant remembers exactly what it's supposed to do: grow fresh, crisp leaves. By day 2 or 3, tiny green folds appear at the center, looking almost like a newborn head of lettuce. Within a week, you'll have a cluster of new leaves that are tender, sweet, and perfect for sandwiches or salads. While you won't regrow a full grocery store-sized head, you will get a steady supply of baby greens that taste fresher than anything in a plastic bag. Early American households often regrew leaf lettuces on windowsills long before zero waste was a trend. It was normal to stretch a head of lettuce for an extra week or two, especially during winter when fresh greens were scarce. Lettuce grows from a central growing point at the crown, and as long as that crown stays intact, it will continue to send up new leaves. To maximize growth, move the regrown crown into a pot of soil after the first week. Soil gives the plant nutrients that water alone can't supply, allowing the leaves to reach full size and deepen in flavor. If you're new to regrowing food, romaine is one of the easiest and most gratifying plants you can bring back to life right on your countertop. Bok choy is one of those vegetables that looks almost too delicate to regrow until you actually try it. Hidden inside that crisp, pale base is a powerhouse of life waiting to restart. When you trim off the bottom 2 inches and place it in a shallow dish of water, something magical happens. Within just a couple of days, tiny green leaves begin unfolding from the center like a miniature lotus flower. That is the bok choy crown reactivating, tapping into reserves of stored energy the plant saved for moments exactly like this. Asian gardeners have known this trick for centuries. Bok choy, like many leafy brassicas, grows from a central growing point that remains intact even after harvest. As long as that crown stays healthy, the plant will try to rebuild itself. By day 4 or 5, the bright green inner leaves begin to lengthen and the stem thickens. Although it will not regrow a full supermarket-sized head, it will provide a steady supply of tender baby leaves perfect for soups, stir-fries, and salads. Want bigger results? After a week in water, transfer the regrowing base into soil. Bok choy responds dramatically once its roots touch real earth. The plant becomes sturdier, the leaves broader, and the growth more vigorous. Many home gardeners keep a rotating lineup of regrowing bok choy bases on their windowsill, snipping off fresh greens as needed. It is one of the easiest, most rewarding vegetables to bring back from scraps, proving that even a plant that looks fragile can be surprisingly determined. Cabbage and Napa cabbage. Cabbage might seem like an unlikely candidate for regrowth. Its tightly layered leaves and dense structure give the impression of a vegetable that is all finale and no encore. But the truth is, cabbage, especially Napa cabbage, has a surprisingly persistent growth point tucked inside the base. If you place the bottom section in a shallow dish of water, the inner core begins to reactivate, pushing up fresh leaves in just a few days. Historically, cabbage was a survival crop. It stored well, it traveled well, and yes, people regrew it whenever possible to stretch their harvest. The growing point, located at the heart of the base, remains alive as long as it is not damaged. When given moisture and light, it begins forming new leaves that are softer, sweeter, and more tender than the original head. The process is slow but steady. First, you will notice pale little leaves unfolding like soft petals. Then, over the next week, the leaves deepen in color and begin forming a looser version of the cabbage's characteristic head. While it will not rebuild a full commercial-sized cabbage, the regrown leaves are perfect for adding fresh crunch to stir-fries, dumpling fillings, or salads. If you want to take regrowth even further, plant the cabbage base in soil after the first week. With nutrients and space, the plant can continue producing leaves for months. Some gardeners even coax regrown cabbage into forming new mini heads if the season is long enough. It is a gentle reminder that even the humblest veggie has more life left than meets the eye. Leeks are often described as hardier cousins of the onion, and their regrowth habit proves it. When you slice off the dark green tops and keep the white root end, you are actually holding a living plant ready for round 2. Place the root section in a glass of water, just enough to cover the roots, and the transformation begins. Within 3 to 5 days, a fresh cylinder of pale green begins stretching upward from the center. It is almost like watching time-lapse footage in real life. The secret lies in the way leeks grow. They are technically bundles of overlapping leaves, each ready to push upward from the growing point at the base. That growing point stays alive even after harvest, which means regrowing leeks is practically guaranteed. Early homesteaders relied on this trait to extend their supply during the colder months. Leeks were prized for their ability to keep producing fresh greens indoors when outdoor gardens were frozen. Today, you can do the same on a windowsill. Keep the water fresh and the light bright, and leeks will grow several inches each week. For even better results, plant the base in soil once the new growth is strong. Soil provides nutrients that water alone cannot, allowing the leek to thicken and extend just like a new plant. Some gardeners even grow full-sized leeks from leftover root bases. Whether you use them for soups, stocks, or sautés, regrown leeks offer flavor that is mild, sweet, and far fresher than anything in store aisles. Fennel is a vegetable with personality, aromatic, crunchy, and elegant, but what most people do not know is that it is also one of the most cooperative plants to regrow. At the base of every fennel bulb is a tight cluster of living tissue and roots ready to spring back to life. Trim the bottom inch of the bulb, place it in a shallow dish of water, and position it somewhere sunny. Within a few days, you will see new fronds emerging from the center like delicate green feathers. These feathery fronds are not just pretty, they are packed with flavor and make excellent garnishes, salad additions, or roasted toppings. As the plant continues to revive, the base grows firmer, sending energy upward and outward. Fennel regrows so well because its crown, the cluster at the bottom, is essentially the plant's heart. Even when the bulb is harvested, that heart often remains intact, and given moisture and light, it begins forming new life. Ancient Mediterranean households often kept fennel bases in water to grow fresh fronds year-round. They used the greens as both food and medicine, taking full advantage of the plant's resilience. For full regrowth, transfer the revived base into soil after the first week. Fennel loves light and well-draining earth, and once it adjusts, it can produce a brand new bulb, smaller than store-bought but intensely flavorful. Whether you are after the fronds or the bulb, fennel proves that even gourmet vegetables have simple, scrappy beginnings. 8. Lemongrass. Lemongrass is the regrow trick that feels like cheating. Most grocery store stalks still have small root nubs attached at the bottom, and those little nubs are all you need to restart the entire plant. Place the stalk bottoms in a jar with a few inches of water and put the jar on a sunny windowsill. Within a few days, roots begin extending downward as fresh green shoots push up from the tops. In tropical regions, lemongrass grows as a perennial, sending up long, fragrant blades that smell like citrus in summer. That same energy remains in every stalk you buy. Early Asian cooks often kept a glass of lemongrass growing near the kitchen for convenience. They could snip off a piece whenever they needed it for tea, soups, curries, or broths. After a week or two, once the roots are well developed, plant the stalks in soil. Lemongrass takes off quickly, forming thick clusters of leaves. Outdoors, it can grow several feet tall. Indoors, it stays more compact but still delivers the same rich aroma that makes it a favorite in kitchens. The best part? Lemongrass is nearly impossible to kill once it starts growing. It thrives on neglect, tolerates dry spells, and bounces back easily. Whether you are harvesting leaves for cooking or simply growing it as an aromatic houseplant, regrown lemongrass is one of the most rewarding recycling projects you can do. 9. Garlic, cloves for bulbs and greens. Garlic is legendary for its ability to regenerate. A single clove, something that costs pennies, contains everything it needs to transform into a full bulb packed with new cloves. When you plant a clove in soil, pointed end up, it begins sending roots downward almost immediately. Within a week, the first green shoot emerges from the top, signaling that the plant is awake and ready to grow. But garlic offers two types of harvests. Plant it in a pot on your windowsill, and you will get garlic greens, long slender shoots with a mild garlicky flavor, perfect for omelets, soups, and garnishes. Plant it outdoors in soil with enough space, and it will eventually form a whole new bulb underground, multiplying your investment many times over. For centuries, families regrew garlic year after year, saving the biggest cloves as seed garlic for the next planting season. What makes garlic so reliable is the structure of the clove. Each one contains a complete growth point and stored energy reserves. As long as the clove is healthy and not overly dried, it will regenerate. Even sprouted garlic, the kind most people throw away, is still perfectly plantable. In fact, it is already halfway through the regrowth process. Whether you are after bulbs or greens, garlic is one of the most forgiving and productive plants you can grow from kitchen scraps. 10. Bulb onions. Onions are masters of survival. Their layers aren't just for flavor, they are for storing nutrients the plant uses to regrow itself. If you cut off the bottom inch of the onion where the roots are and place it in shallow water or moist soil, the plant immediately attempts to rebuild. Within days, small green shoots burst from the center, reaching upward like miniature scallions. These green shoots can be harvested and used just like chives or green onions. But the real magic happens in soil. The base begins dividing, forming multiple new onion sets that can grow into full bulbs over time. Old-time gardeners often planted onion bottoms to produce new seedlings. This method was especially popular before commercial onion sets became widely available. The regrowth is possible because the onion's basal plate, the part that connects all the layers, is a living hub. When it senses moisture, it produces roots and leaves again, essentially rebooting the plant. If you plant it outdoors, each new shoot can grow into its own bulb with enough time and space. Indoors, keeping the onion bottom in water provides a steady supply of onion greens. Either way, one onion can turn into many, proving that even the simplest pantry staple has hidden potential. Potatoes are one of the easiest and most powerful regrow from scrap plants. Every potato is filled with eyes, small buds capable of sprouting into an entirely new plant. If you have ever left a potato in a dark cupboard too long, you have seen how determined it is to grow again. Those sprouts are not a flaw, they are the plant's way of reproducing. To regrow potatoes, cut them into chunks, making sure each piece has at least 1 or 2 eyes. Let the pieces dry for a day to prevent rotting, then plant them in soil. Within a couple of weeks, foliage starts pushing upward, and below the soil, new tubers begin forming. A single potato can yield several pounds of new potatoes under the right conditions. This regrowth ability made potatoes a lifeline crop for families throughout history. They store energy underground, and each part of the tuber can restart the entire plant. Even wrinkled or sprouted potatoes from your pantry can produce a heavy harvest. Potatoes prefer loose soil and consistent watering, but they are forgiving. Whether grown in a garden bed, a deep container, or a simple grow bag, they multiply quickly. Few vegetables stretch your food budget further than a potato that returns many times more than what you planted. Sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes regrow differently from regular potatoes, but the result is just as impressive. Instead of planting chunks of tuber, you grow slips. These are sprouts that emerge from the sweet potato surface. Place an uncut sweet potato in water or in a shallow dish of moisture, and within days, leafy vines begin growing from the eyes. Once these shoots are 6 inches long, you twist them off and place them in water so they can form roots. Each slip becomes its own plant, capable of producing several new sweet potatoes. A single grocery store sweet potato can produce a whole garden bed's worth of plants. This method was used by early American farmers to multiply their crops when seed was scarce. Sweet potatoes thrive in warm weather, and once planted, the vines create a lush, fast-growing ground cover. Beneath the soil, new tubers swell all season long. Sweet potatoes hold incredible amounts of stored energy, which is why slips form so easily. It is nature's backup system and a gift to anyone wanting to grow food cheaply. Whether you are after the nutrient-rich tubers or the edible leaves, yes, sweet potato greens are delicious. This is one of the most rewarding scrap-growing projects you can do. Ginger root. Ginger isn't actually a root, it is a rhizome, a horizontal stem packed with growing buds called eyes. Each one of those eyes has the potential to become an entirely new ginger plant. When you place a piece of ginger in soil with the eyes facing up, it begins sending up shoots and sprouts while expanding new rhizomes underground. Ginger grows slowly but steadily. You will see shoots within a few weeks, and the plant will continue developing for months. This technique has been used for generations in tropical and subtropical cultures where ginger was too valuable to waste. A single knobby piece could supply an entire family's ginger needs year after year. Store-bought ginger often regrows easily, especially if it still feels firm and has visible bumps. Many gardeners soak it overnight to wake up dormant buds, then plant it in shallow soil. As the stems grow taller and the leaves fan out, the rhizomes underground multiply. The beauty of ginger is that you can harvest without killing the plant. Simply dig around the edges, break off what you need, and let the rest keep growing. It is a perpetual source of fresh spice, aroma, and medicinal power, all starting from a humble grocery store scrap. Turmeric, like ginger, grows from rhizomes. Those knobby, vibrant orange pieces packed with energy and healing compounds. Each section with an eye can grow into a full plant. When you plant turmeric in warm, moist soil, it begins sprouting tall, lush green leaves that resemble tropical foliage. Beneath the surface, new rhizomes expand in every direction, multiplying your supply. Traditional growers in India and Southeast Asia have used this regrowing method for thousands of years. Turmeric thrives in heat and humidity, but it can also grow indoors in pots as long as it gets enough warmth. Growth starts slow, but once the plant takes hold, it becomes vigorous. The real treasure is underground. After 8 to 10 months, the plant dies back naturally, signaling harvest time. When you dig up the rhizomes, you will find that your original piece has transformed into a much larger cluster. You can keep some for cooking and save a few pieces to plant again, creating an endless cycle. Turmeric's ability to regrow comes from its rhizome structure, which stores huge reserves of nutrients. That is why even a tiny scrap can turn into something amazing. It is a spice, a medicine, and a plant with a persistence that borders on miracle. Carrot tops for greens, not new roots. Carrots are one of the most misunderstood kitchen scraps for regrowing. Many people expect the orange root to regrow, but that part will not regenerate. What does regrow and regrows beautifully are the leafy greens from the top of the carrot. If you slice off the top inch and place it in a shallow dish of water, little fern-like leaves start emerging from the center within days. These greens were prized by past generations as nutritious and flavorful herbs. They taste like a cross between parsley and carrot, perfect for pesto, chimichurri, soups, and sautés. In fact, carrot greens used to be a common kitchen ingredient before modern households began throwing them away. Why do the tops regrow? Because the growing point sits just above the root. Even after the carrot is harvested, that point is alive and waiting for moisture. When rehydrated, it springs back into action. You will not regrow another carrot root. It is simply impossible. But you will get a renewable source of greens. Plant the regrown top in soil, and the greens become fuller and more productive. It is one of the easiest ways to turn a kitchen scrap into something beautiful, edible, and endlessly useful. If this video sprouted some ideas for your own scrap garden, hit subscribe so you do not miss the next harvest of tips, and tap the like button so YouTube knows gardeners still exist. Drop a comment telling me which veggie you are regrowing first, and if you have already got a windowsill jungle, share your best regrow success or your biggest fail so we can all learn from it.